it's Americans who are kind of sheltered and kind of have had a relatively calm monetary existence, and who, until recently, generally speaking, trusted their government. I mean, I'm writing my quarterly report now. One of the charts I have in there, which I think is a really fabulous chart, is that now it's 80% of the country does not trust the government, basically does not trust the government.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing? And I thought, well, who are the other 20%?
Wow.
They work for the government. Well, it gives power back to the citizens. I mean, it's sovereign money for an individual that the government can't control or confiscate. And they may want to, but if you've got your 12 words, your 24 words, subject, unless they torture you or threaten to throw you in jail, they can't steal your money, and through the theft of inflation. Clean digital property is what Bitcoin is, and it's the first of its kind, and it's the leading one. And I don't see it ever being supplanted or replaced. And so, this is a way for an individual to protect themselves from consistent monetary debasement, which will be very valuable as the government continues to behave irresponsibly. Lay over that, it's also got an adoption curve, right? Which is a beautiful thing, which is to say there are 8 billion people, 21 million Bitcoins. I mean, there are 54 million millionaires and 21 million. Every millionaire in the world can't even have half a coin.
Right.
So if you have half a coin today, you're by definition at least a millionaire.
Yeah.
I went to college and took an economics degree and was taught Keynesianism.
Yes.
And I immediately said, this isn't right. This just doesn't foot
Yes. Yeah.
with how the world works.
Yeah.
And so I always kind of knew that we were living, and I studied the 70s very carefully.
Yeah.
And my grandfather was a gold bug, and he held gold, and we watched the massive inflation event in the 70s. And I kind of knew that the system was flawed all the way through.
Lawrence Lepard is an investment manager specializing in precious metals such as gold and silver. However, he has recently recognized the opportunities presented by Bitcoin and has consistently expressed positive views over Bitcoin. In this interview with YouTuber Robert Breedlove, Lepard offers insightful commentary on the economy, gold, and government actions that contribute to inflation. He also discusses the potential for Bitcoin to disrupt the status quo. As we bring you clips from the interview, take a moment to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more video like this. You can join the conversation by dropping your thoughts, comments, and observations in the comment section below. Everything you do helps with YouTube algorithm and immensely contributes to the channel growth. Thank you and enjoy the video.
But to be frank, the gold didn't work particularly well from 1980 until kind of 2000.
Right.
Because, they kind of put it back in the can, and, there was a lot of credit growth, there was a lot of technological development, et cetera. And so, it wasn't necessarily a profitable investment in that time frame when everything else was growing. There's another piece that's not talked about a lot, but that is a fact, and that is the government very effectively figured out how to defang and demonetize gold.
Oh, yeah.
To their own benefit.
They suppress it in the paper markets.
I mean, they realized very clearly that if the price of gold goes up, that means that they are mismanaging their currency, and the value of their currency goes down.
Right.
And so guys like Robert Rubin and Larry Summers and a number of other people, a list too long to elaborate on, figured out schemes to keep the price of gold down by issuing paper gold contracts. Yeah. When Bitcoin came along, and when Safe wrote the Bitcoin Standard, which truly I think is going to be one of the most historic books ever written.
Yeah,
I really do. I think
agreed.
Safe is going to be in there with von Mises and Rothbard and all those guys. And suddenly I've got 20 and 30-year-olds quoting Austrian economists to me, and I'm like, this is fucking great.
Yes.
I've got reinforcements. We've been fighting. I mean, gold is sound money, and gold was sound money until Bitcoin came along. But to be honest with you, we were a real minority, and it was a real fringe group of guys that were gold bugs.
Yeah. Definitely sucked me into the Austrian economics rabbit hole.
Right.
And then being a gold bug for decades then, up until the great financial crisis.
But a radical gold bug post-08. Yeah.
Right, radical post-08 because you saw the $700 billion we printed.
Yeah, TARP, right.
The Troubled Asset Relief Program, TARP, was an initiative created and run by the U.S. Treasury to stabilize the country's financial system, restore economic growth, and mitigate foreclosures in the wake of the 2008 financial crisis. TARP sought to achieve these targets by purchasing troubled companies' assets and stock. The Troubled Asset Relief Program, TARP, was instituted by the U.S. Treasury following the 2008 financial crisis. TARP stabilized the financial system by having the government buy mortgage-backed securities and bank stocks. From 2008 to 2010, TARP invested $426.4 billion in firms and recouped $441.7 billion in return. TARP was controversial at the time, and its effectiveness continues to be debated. Let's get back to the video.
Doesn't sound like much money today. It's
Isn't
weird.
it amazing?
It's like that number is
Well, we just had a $600 billion federal deficit this quarter. Just got reported last night.
this quarter.
This quarter.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's basically money that's getting printed this quarter.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's another thing. Yeah. The people, these terms, it's always the jargon that makes things complicated.
Right.
But when you say a $600 billion deficit, you're basically saying a $600 billion loss.
Correct.
Right? The government is spending $600 billion more than it's bringing in.
Yes.
And that loss can only be covered with money printing.
With printing money because
Yes.
they don't have it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this giant historic bailout package in 2008 of $700 billion is now just a quarterly loss for the U.S.
Correct.
government.
Yeah. And growing. By the way, that 600 was up from 500.
Yes.
prior
growing,
quarter.
of course. So what was your transition then? And you'd been a gold bug for decades. You understood the value of gold as sound money.
Yeah.
How did you shift? How did you take that frame of understanding on gold and apply it to Bitcoin? Like, what
Well,
did it? Was it an impediment to understanding Bitcoin? Did it help you?
No, it helped. It was really a big positive. I mean, so that was kind of the first thing I said, well, this is sounder because it's got it will soon have a lower stock to flow. And in fact, it's even better than that because ultimately we'll have no stock to flow. As
That's right.
Saylor points out, in 2034, 99% of it will have been issued.
Yeah.
The stock to flow will become truly trivial because I think it takes 100 years to issue the remaining 1%.
That's right.
So, you know, there is no stock. There is really no, I mean, there is no flow almost, right? And so that's the first characteristic of a sound money. You know, the other is it verifiable, et cetera. And, you know, as we all know, the U.S. says they have 261 million ounces of gold in Fort Knox. Do they? I don't know.
Hasn't been looked at since 1950.
54 or something, right? And they, you know what they claim? They claim it's too expensive to audit it. Give me a break. I mean, with all the billions of dollars they're spending, they're perfectly capable of auditing that gold if they wanted to. And so again, it's a little bit of a peas and shells game.
Sure.
You know, which goes along with the paper gold. So in 1971, Nixon killed all the hostages.
Yeah.
I love that saying.
Yeah.
And you know, the governments have, since that time, governments have behaved in an increasingly irresponsible manner. And so the average human being who's unaware of that has been kind of, in my opinion, ravaged by inflation.
Of course.
You know, you try and save money and you can't.
Right.
Because, you know, you save it and every year it devalues. They're stealing from you. And by the way, it gives the government power. You know, it gives them power to spend on wars. It gives them power to run things the way they want to do. It allows, you know, the politicians to benefit, allows the military industrial complex to benefit. You know, for some people, it allows quintillioniers to benefit.
Yes.
Because, you know, they generally speaking have a way of operating, you know, in a low interest rate environment, and they get the money first.
Yes.
You know, the government's printing money, and the person who gets it first is at a significant advantage over Joe Sixpack, who gets paid his wage, and by the time he goes to buy things, the prices are higher.
Right.
And notably getting progressively worse,
of course,
in a compound fashion.
How could it not?
Yeah, how could it not? And here we are, where it's kind of like, you know, light is dawning on Marblehead. I mean, everybody is starting to realize. I mean, you know, I don't think the average normal person in the U.S. necessarily knows it's the Federal Reserve and the money printing that's causing them pain. But there's probably nobody in this country that isn't feeling pain from inflation.
Of course.
I mean, unless you're a gazillionaire and you don't give a shit.
Yeah.
But you know, every family in this country is strained as a result of the inflation that we've suffered through, and it's getting worse.
Yes.
To be frank, I mean, my view is, and it's rather sad, but my view is that, you know, when we have a very serious inflation event, maybe even going so far as hyperinflation, I've been told not to use that word by, you know, some high-level people in this whole space, but we could go there. When we have that kind of event, I mean, I think people are going to realize that it didn't just happen, out of the blue. I mean, it wasn't ex nihilo that
Sure.
we had inflation. Well, no, the government did this to you. And the thing is, I mean, it's interesting because Americans are sheltered, right? The last inflation we had was, the Continental in 1789. Okay. We had a little bit of inflation with the greenback and the Civil War, but, we've had a relatively stable currency. You know who gets this are people from other countries.
Of course.
You travel,
Yeah.
particularly in South America.
Yeah.
But I mean Hungary and
The global South,
Russia,
really.
yeah,
Yeah.
and really anywhere in the world, and they understand.
Yeah.
I mean, the Chinese understand. They had hyperinflation, several of them. So it's Americans who are kind of sheltered and kind of have had a relatively calm monetary existence, and who until recently, generally speaking, trusted their government. I mean, I'm writing my quarterly report now. One of the charts I have in there, which I think is a really fabulous chart, is that now it's 80% of the country does not trust the government, basically does not trust the government.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing? And I thought, well, who are the other 20%?
Wow.
They work for the government.
To the preferences of their citizens.
Right.
When that is removed, you get fiat clown world that we're 50 years into today.
Yeah.
How does Bitcoin restore balance to the force?
Well, it gives power back to the citizens. I mean, it's sovereign money for an individual that the government can't control or confiscate. And they may want to, but if you've got your 12 words, your 24 words, subject unless they torture you or threaten to throw you in jail, they can't steal your money, and through the theft of inflation. So that's really the primary use case. I mean, store of value. Clean digital property is what Bitcoin is, and it's the first of its kind, and it's the leading one. And I don't see it ever being supplanted or replaced. And so this is a way for an individual to protect themselves from consistent monetary debasement. It's actually a bit more than that, though, too, because it's got that quantity, which will be very valuable as the government continues to behave irresponsibly. Lay over that, it's also got an adoption curve, right? Which is a beautiful thing, which is to say there are 8 billion people, 21 million Bitcoins. I mean, there are 54 million millionaires and 21 million. Every millionaire in the world can't even have half a coin.
Right.
So if you have half a coin today, you're by definition at least a millionaire.
Yeah.
Okay. In future purchasing power
Yes.
terms, right?
Yeah.
And more realistically, maybe a couple 100 million people have some Bitcoin today and realize it's a superior form of money. The other 8 billion are going to come to that conclusion. And as they do, they're going to want some, and they're going to pay you more for what you already hold.
Right.
So it's a little bit of a get in early and beat the rush.
Yeah.
Kind of approach to the problem. And so this adoption curve, in my opinion, is going to take it from today's price to multiples of today's price. I mean, it's if you kind of look at it historically, it's kind of tended to do a power law or to go to the 10th power, every 6-7 years, something like that. So it was $700, then it was $7,000, now it's $70,000. I mean, I fully expect that 10 years from now it'll be $700,000, and 10 years after that'll be $7 million.
Yeah.
I mean, and it could actually even go faster, because I also think we're a little bit close to the tipping point, to the where everyone's becoming aware of it.
Yes.
And when that happens, it could go quite quickly, in my opinion.
In 2008, the financial crisis rocks the world, leaving trust in traditional institutions shattered. Then enter a mysterious figure known as Satoshi Nakamoto, who unveils a revolutionary concept: Bitcoin. This digital currency promised a decentralized, secure way to transfer value without banks or governments. It was met with both intrigue and skepticism. Early adopters mined the first Bitcoins, solving complex puzzles using their computers. The price? Pennies. But the story doesn't end there. As more people learned about Bitcoin, its value started to climb. Fast forward to 2011, and a single Bitcoin is worth over $1. The roller coaster ride had begun. Bitcoin faced hacks, government scrutiny, and wild price swings. But through it all, a dedicated community of believers held on. In 2017, the crypto craze explodes. Bitcoin surges past $20,000, capturing the world's attention. But the bubble bursts and the price crashes, Some declared Bitcoin dead, but others saw it as the buying opportunity. Slowly, steadily, Bitcoin began its climb again. Today, Bitcoin is a multi-billion-dollar industry. Large companies like Tesla, PayPal, and MicroStrategy are embracing it. Is it the future of money? Only time will tell. But one thing's for sure, the Bitcoin story is far from over. Where will it take us next? What's your thought on Lepard's interview? All discussing the outlook for Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. Please drop your comments and observations in the comment section. Subscribe to the channel and give this video a thumbs up. Thanks for watching.